Hello, thanks everyone for joining. My name is Tim Foley. I'm the VP of Sales and Marketing here at HM Cragg. It looks like we've got 19 people on the line with us. Appreciate that. With me here in Minnesota is Dan Jackson, our marketing manager, and also on the phone is our presenter, Rick Dabb of Falcon Electric. So he's going to take us through a short presentation, and we'll leave it open for questions in chat mode right now. On the bottom right-hand side of your screen, you should be able to see a chat function where you can ask questions, but at the end of the presentation, we will open it up.
So good morning. My name is Rick Dabb, Vice President of Sales for Falcon Electric. And before we would get started this morning, just if anyone's curious, I thought I would show everyone Tiger's scorecard so far this morning. He's playing in Los Angeles today. Yes.
Okay.
Birdie, double bogey, bogey, birdie, bogey.
All right.
So that's how he started his day in Los Angeles. Thought everybody'd get a kick out of that. All right, what we're going to talk about today is, first of all, Tim, Dan, I really appreciate you guys setting this up for us. Everyone, I want you to make a note because we'll come back to it later, but Falcon really appreciates the HM Cragg relationship. We appreciate all what the resellers have done for us. In fact, as you write this number down, because it will come back in a few minutes, there's been over 700 SSG products sold through this relationship over the last 7 years. So just write that number down because we're going to talk about it in a few minutes. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about Falcon Electric, and I'm going to show you a couple of new pieces of information that we've put together to help you in your selling of Falcon products. And then we're going to go right into the release of our lithium battery products and what we see going on out there and some of the questions that came back from the early dialogue that HM Cragg had with you we'll be answering today. We'll also look at the battery options from Falcon Electric, and we'll discuss a new product that we want to send you some information on voltage regulation. So with that, I'll go ahead and get started into the presentation. What we do is we talk about who we are at Falcon. So what we have created, and it will be emailed to each of you, is a document that is our corporate profile. Now, I'm not going to go through the full thing right here because it's just a printed document, but it's available to you, and it talks about Falcon and some of the things that we've been able to accomplish. Secondly, we've got a document coming to you that shows you by year some of the milestones that Falcon has accomplished as a company. As an example, down here at 2017, it talks about the release of lithium ion that we'll be discussing, but it goes all the way back to the 30 years in 1980s of starting the first high-frequency transformerless online UPS technology over 30 years ago. So we use this document in a lot of our presentations, so both of these will be made available to everyone that's on the call. So who we are, 30 years in business, we talked about that, the 2 million units that have been sold out there. We talked about that before. We've talked about having one service guy here at Falcon. But what I really wanted to do was share some real numbers with you. If you remember a minute ago, I mentioned that HM Cragg has sold through your resellers 700 SSGs over the last 7 years. 25% of those have been SSG 1.5 KRM-1 rack mounts. So that's the most popular item. In the 7 years that we've been doing this together, there has been 13 warranty claims on those UPSs, or about 2 a year. So we find that to be a very, very strong message to your base that these units have not been installed in offices. They've been on oil fields, wastewater facilities. They've been on tollways, bridges, all sorts of harsh environment applications. And the warranty problem number was less than 2%. And those were fixed under warranty. So that's the part of the commercial piece here this morning. Some of the corporate highlights that I showed you on the sheet, that we will be talking about today, of course, is the lithium. We're going to explain the temperatures around it. We're going to explain the warranties around it, and we're going to explain the financials around it. Before I go into that, I wanted to real quickly just review that Falcon units that perform within HM Cragg and win, these are the verticals that we see these working in. Oil and gas, pipelines, communications, SCADAs, wastewater treatment facilities, light rails, subway, solar, industrial. Most recently, we installed 14 systems in Puerto Rico before the hurricane hit to replace all APCs in their tollway system that runs across the island. After the hurricane came through, they had damaged equipment, they had damaged gantries, but when they got back in to put the system back in place, all 14 Falcon sites came right back up with batteries still working after surviving through a hurricane. So we just wanted to share that piece. Now, to go into the lithium piece of what we're going to talk about, we're going to use the SSG 1.5 KRM-1 as the example. The picture here is of the rack version. The little white casing you see is where the batteries are actually installed. These are lead acid batteries. This is a hot swappable configuration that you could just pull those batteries out, put in a new battery pack. One of the advantages you're going to see is, when we talk, is that any customer that has purchased one of these units in the past with lead acid is going to be able to replace that, if they so choose, with lithium battery in their existing UPS. And we don't think there's anybody else in the world that can do that yet.
Hey Rick, it's Tim. We're getting a little background noise and it's got to be coming from you. I wonder if maybe you should pick up the phone.
I did pick up my phone right when we started.
Sounds like somebody's running a vacuum cleaner. Weird. It's in the background. Okay. If you can't identify it, keep going.
Yeah, it's quiet here in my office. I shut my door and there's no vacuuming going on.
I figured.
So,
okay.
Well, maybe someone will chat with us and tell us who's cleaning. So as I was getting back to this, Tim, as I was saying, this is hot, replaceable, swappable battery technology. Whether now you can use the lithium or the lead acid that you've used in the past on any existing SSG 55C rated product. Okay? Now, to introduce lithium to you is I will show you first of all, and you'll each get one, there is a full brochure available on lithium-ion product. And there are lots of questions people may have about the technology around it. On our call today is my Director of Service, George Juarez. He'd be available to answer any questions that may come in, or anybody wants to talk about, you know, safety issues with lithium that has had some concerns in the past. These are not hoverboard batteries. These are not the batteries that Boeing put in. These have been very well tested and they're very safe. But the key features, because we're only going to talk to that for a few minutes, is longer service life, longer battery runtime, the weight around lithium, the temperature operating ranges, and the safety that I mentioned. So when I go back over here, this is what we see. At 55C, which is the operating high-end range of these lithium batteries, it is a 10-year battery now. So in the past, people who did traditional lead acid, they may have got 1 or 2 years at 50 or 55C. When we brought in our XTV lead acid, we took that up to 4, but now the lithium gives you the ability to have a 10-year battery. It's 30% lighter in the same physical footprint that you currently get 6 minutes of battery with lead acid. You'll get 20 minutes of battery under lithium. You will be able to do it in 2U of space instead of 4U of space. And a lithium battery has 2,000 discharges in its life versus 500 in a lead acid battery. So those are the key points that we wanted to make around lithium and how it can be used out in the field. So does that raise, or has anybody got any questions that they would like to ask or type into us? Yeah, the last thing I actually heard was two gentlemen asking a question about disposal or recycling.
Correct.
So I'm going to, George, you want to step in on that for me?
Yeah. Hi. So we're referring to the disposal of lead acid or the lithium. Well, the lithium batteries, they would still have to apply local, laws and regulations as far as recycling goes, but they would have to be taken care of in that manner depending on the location. Right now, we're still working with our vendors to kind of work out some kind of deal to dispose of them, if whether we come up with a system to take them back and do that for us, or how we're going to really do it. But as of right now, yeah, it's still state and local laws that apply to the lithium batteries disposal.
So as we get closer to shipping, we'll release documentation on what we find and how best way to handle that. So that's still in some sort of development there, Tim, but we will get that to everyone, okay?
Okay.
Now, are there any other questions? Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. That's what I was going to ask.
Well, I was just going to ask if there's any questions about runtime or sizing or anything else. The pricing will be coming through HM Cragg. They'll be pricing your proposals up for you. I'm just working out some charts for runtimes and stuff within that. So, Tim, go ahead, see if there's any questions for us. Okay.
We don't have any, but
Am I coming through?
I don't have any being typed in, so I believe everyone is off mute, so that wants to be anyway.
Am I coming in?
Yes, you are. We can hear you.
As far as PMs go, is there a optimum time or a suggestion as far as PMs? I have a customer who will have a unit in a very difficult to access place, and I think they would rather go into this area. They probably, put it this way, few people will be in the area. So would they want to do a PM once a year?
The beauty of the method of charging for our systems is that it requires very low maintenance. So the charge current is such that it won't put a large bearing on the batteries. So any discharging cycles that may be produced every 6 months, a year, whatever time frame is available, would be a normal part of preventative maintenance for any equipment, really. But it doesn't require any short-term type scheduling to have those batteries in top shape. They are, for the most part, maintenance-free as far as the packs go, and the UPS charger will take care of that and kind of go from there.
So you actually don't recommend doing it, do you?
No, it's not necessarily required. Like I said, 6 months to a year, if that's a normal PM schedule for any equipment. But if there's anything that would be done every few years, then yeah, that would be the most we recommend. For the most part, the scheme of the charger, the way it floats, and the voltage level we're at for the battery is well under the maximum rating, and that prolongs the life of these batteries overall. So the maintenance is kept very low because of that.
And one more question: is there some type of communications network card that can be installed?
Not specifically to the batteries. There's no battery management system in the UPS structure. The overall operation remains the same as with lead acid. So you still have the option of having the SNMP communication to the UPS. However, the parameters specific to the battery remain the same as with lead acid.
Yeah. Right, I understand that. I guess I had two questions. I was just curious with regard to actual communications with the UPS, and you answered that question.
Okay.
And in fact, we've also been using a piece of software that will allow you to monitor up to 240 UPSs, even down to a smartphone. if you needed to have that kind of application. So somebody either sitting in front of their computer screen or even out in the field with their smartphone, it would be getting instant access of what's going on with UPS.
Yeah, a lot of companies have been using software like SolarWinds.
SolarWinds.
Just to monitor their multiple pieces of equipment, or even if they put it into their SCADA system, they also have the capability with the networking cards to get the background information to implement that type of if you don't want to use the web interface that's preloaded on there. It makes it a lot easier that way, but that's always been an option for us.
So my question back to the team out there, of the resellers, is do you see or have had inquiries about lithium battery in any of your applications yet?
Rick, we had a question, can a fire be stopped with water?
Well, the lithium, for the lithium batteries, they do require a special class fire extinguisher that has to be in the location. So I can get the information on the exact class. I don't have it off the top of my head here, but there is a specific fire extinguisher for lithium fires. And that's just a real backup safety system, because these lithium iron phosphate are not the same chemistry as the lithium ion. So these have been produced much safer, but even as a backup, there is a fire extinguisher type for this battery.
Okay. You'll be able to share that with us? We can share it with the group? Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Will do. We had...
Yeah, I can't see any of the questions. I had to run upstairs, Tim, so George's computer doesn't have the go to meeting stuff.
Yeah. Yep. The only other question that it didn't focus on disposal, because there was a number of those, which we need to work out, it sounds like. Yeah. How do you know battery condition then? How do you get information on the battery condition?
Battery condition testing remains the same, either through SNMP on a battery capacity test on the interface, or manually through the front panel. It's all based on the battery voltage within a 10-second test that puts the load in it, and get your battery voltage, and then you'll get your capacity based on that.
Okay.
All right, so Tim, you've got up right now the screen that says Falcon battery options.
Yes.
Okay. So to summarize around that is there now are 3 options that you have on a Falcon -20 to 55C UPS system. You have the traditional XTV lead acid that we've provided, which is now a 4-year life 50C battery, which is about twice to 2.5 times what you see from any other of the lead acids out there. Secondly, now up to 6 kVA, you have a lithium option, which we find the sweet spot for that is going to be the 20-minute to 40-minute runtime applications. You know, if you got somebody who wants hours, you don't have enough money to buy enough lithium, right, George? Yeah. So 20 to 40 minutes, Tim, is the sweet spot that we see for lithium battery applications. And then when people need hours, we have the 40-amp battery cabinet. It's 5U in height, and that gives someone the ability to run for hours instead of minutes. Okay.
And that's lead acid based, not lithium?
That's correct.
Okay. Yep.
That 40-amp battery cabinet, we've had 66 of those installed here at an application in LA since 2011 in an outdoor enclosure under the freeways, and we're just now starting to replace some of those batteries 7 years later.
Cool.
So those are kind of runtime thing. That's kind of life we're seeing. So depending on what your customer need is, it really comes down to that. If people ask us about lithium all the time because they want less space, rack space is expensive, or they've got a weight issue, that they need that less weight, or it's an application that has a lot of discharges possibly. So now you've got 2,000 discharges over the life versus 500 discharges.
Okay.
That's what we see around lithium. We've done some analysis. There were some questions about pricing that came back to you, Tim, that I will address because I don't think the numbers were accurate, and we will be publishing the examples of a lithium solution versus a lead acid solution. The second question was about warranty. It's a 2-year full warranty on the battery and the UPS together as a system.
Okay.
And
we've had another question, Rick. It actually goes back, I think, to knowing battery condition. The question was, is that a pass-fail, or will the self-test show a degrading battery?
The test itself will show the percentage, the voltage. Based off that voltage, you get your percentage. And also, it is a pass-fail if they're completely dead. If the battery capacity is below the 11-volt threshold, then it will come back with a failed condition.
With a what condition? Sorry about that, George. Didn't hear it.
It would come back with a failed condition if it doesn't meet the threshold for the batteries. So in other words, if you have, batteries at the end of their life, it will say test failed, and that time is your time to replace the batteries.
Okay. All right. Another question was, does the lithium battery module have an integrated EMS? Is it in the module or in the, yes?
No, it does not have a battery management system.
Okay. Got it. All right. Everyone is unmuted, so you can ask other questions. To my knowledge, everyone's unmuted, and people have been talking.
So I had asked a question that I didn't hear an answer to was people getting inquiries on lithium. So we'll just, if there aren't any to that, is we'll get the materials out there so people can start educating people that that is an option available for applications that require those points that we just made a few minutes ago. And
Okay.
And then we owe everybody the information on fire extinguishers, disposal, some runtime charts, safety issues, safety data sheets, all that kind of stuff we'll be putting together and sending out to Tim's group, and they'll be sending it out to everyone.
All right. I've had another, Rick, I've had another question come in. And it is, are you building your own cells? Are you building your own cells and modules? I think I know the answer to the first one.
No, you go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, the cells and modules themselves are not produced by us, not manufactured by us, but we are incorporating them into our packs as an individual pack that is compatible with our UPS. So the safety listings and everything that is tied to the cells and the battery module itself, and then the overall pack is what we have customized to fit our UPS system. So these individual batteries are not compatible alone with our UPS. They must be in our pre-packaged pack for the hot swappable capability and everything else.
And that's the picture earlier in the presentation, the SSG with the white pack, Tim.
Right. Yep. Saw it. Thanks. I can actually, I guess I have control. I can go back to that picture.
Right there.
Yeah.
So,
So,
Tim, wait a second, George. Can you go real quickly how we will ship these, how these will go to them? Let's step through how you actually receive the product.
Yeah. So the individual battery pack will be shipped on a separate box in the shipment. It will have to be installed into the UPS slot once received. So you'll receive basically the UPS in one box, and then you'll receive the battery pack in another. Couple screws, 4 screws, take off the plate, slide in the battery, and you're all set, ready to go.
okay.
Yeah. That's a DOT requirement, Tim, just so you know.
Okay, good. Feedback, you got to take your phone farther away, maybe. Thank you. Is the battery pack listed to UL 1778? All right. Craig, I think we got.
Yeah.
There we go.
The pack itself will be listed at to UL 1778 to be compatible with the entire system.
So it will be listed, but it is not yet.
It's in process.
Understood. Thanks. Is there a shelf life on the batteries? Another question came in.
Yeah, the shelf life on the batteries is 10 years, 10 to 12 years, depending on the temperature, really. But overall, we can call it a 10-year shelf life as well. It doesn't. That's pretty incredible. Yeah, it doesn't really degrade with temperature very much.
So I think the question is sitting on a shelf as a module, not powered up and accepting charge in the UPS. So
right.
It's 10 years on the shelf, starts fully charged and can sit there for 10 years.
No, well, with any battery, yeah, there would be, if it's going to sit there, your lifespan is probably going to be more than 3 to 5 years. It is going to require interval charging if they're going to sit that long. But yeah, overall, you definitely want to charge it. We do have. It's not every 6 months. No, it's not. It's not as strict as a lead acid, where specific time versus specific temperature equals charging every 3, 4 months, 6 months, depending on the warehouse that you have it in. And like I said, the degradation over temperature is very minimal, so it can sit for longer periods of time. We can provide tables for that for comparison as far as the storage time versus temperature and things like that, and it'll show that the overall capacity is much longer than the lead acid.
Okay, thanks. And questions come in. I've got several of them, but the next one is, are the batteries shipped in a discharge state or fully charged or somewhere in the middle?
Yeah, they're charged to 80%, between 75 and 80%. They will be sent out. So they do require a. Actually, there is a DOT requirement for that for the capacity that it's charged at. So we will discharge them prior to sending them out. So they will require, at least a 24-hour run overnight, a minimum of 8 hours to get it to at least 90%. But overall, if you give it 24 hours, you should be okay to get your full battery runtime capacity, especially if you're going to perform testing. A lot of customers like to perform testing out of the box, not really giving the batteries a chance to give the full capacity, and then we shorten some of the runtimes. So we always recommend, a good 24-hour charge on the UPS once it's installed before you run any tests. But right out of the box, 8 hours, you should be fine to 90%.
Okay. Because another question, the BMS, since you don't have a BMS on the battery pack or on the lithium pack, does the UPS recognize that it's charging a lithium pack versus charging a lead acid pack and use a different charging profile?
Actually, the protection is built into the batteries individually. So inside the battery pack, there's 4 batteries. Inside there's the cells and the protection board. That board is protected against short circuit. That board is protected. It actually only has a balancing circuit. So it does have a cell balancing circuit inside. However, it doesn't have a communication port or anything like that. But as I mentioned before, based on the charging, based on the voltage level we charge to, and the safety features of the charging itself, we are well under the requirement for that battery. Therefore, we don't require a different type of charger, because our chargers inherently have a cutoff voltage that is within the battery cutoff level. So even if the battery charger either floats away or goes under or fails, the charger will be cut off, and the UPS will trigger its summary alarm when that happens. And that is all part of the safety feature of the integration of the pack and the battery itself, because, and in addition to the balancing circuit that's inside the battery itself, there's also fuse protection against short circuiting and overcurrent. So all in all, the simple answer is no. There is no difference in charging between the lead acid and the lithium iron phosphate.
Okay, thank you. 2 other questions, 3 actually. One, is this all being recorded? The answer is yes. But we unfortunately will probably have it's like the Nixon tapes. There'll be a 5-minute gap, right, where nothing was going on while you're trying to solve the audio problem. Sorry about that. Next question, though, is how does deep discharge affect battery performance and life?
The deep discharge cycles are not affected. Again, we have a system that does not allow deep discharging onto the batteries. We cut off at 10 volts on the batteries. Any battery that has a deep discharge will obviously decrease the life over time, especially if they go down that far. But we don't go past 10 batteries. That is CPU controlled from our UPS, which allows longer life from the batteries, and obviously with the larger amount of cycles, you definitely will get that life because you're not going too deep into the battery.
Okay, thank you. Could you talk a little bit about the cost of ownership for lead acid versus lithium ion? That was one of the questions that came in.
Okay, so what we see there is, and I'm going to use the SSG 1.5 as an example. If you take a lead acid solution with, say, 20 minutes of time versus a lithium solution with 20 minutes of time, you're looking at a 9% more expensive solution for the lithium. But the lithium is now a 10-year battery versus a 4-year battery at 122 degrees. So if the application is going to have constant high temperature, then the lithium gives you 2 or 3 cycles that you don't replace batteries that you might be replacing a lead acid solution. And with the charts that we'll provide, Tim, to you are going to give you 1.5, 2.2, 3 kVA, 6 kVA, showing you a lead acid cost and showing you a lithium cost, okay?
Okay.
So it's really application dependent. Again, if someone wants half the use space, there's a savings there. If they have a weight situation where they're trying to install in a vehicle, which we've seen, people want to go lithium. So it's really application driven. If it's just saying, hey, I'm going to go out and show my customer something new, well, lithium's going to be more expensive. And I thought about this last night because I knew that this question would come up. More expensive. New technology always seems to be more expensive. My wife still laughs that I bought our first VCR in 1985 for $752.
Mm-hmm.
So even if you can find a VCR now, what is it, $50? So technology, as it changes, the prices change and stuff like that. But all those charts will be made available. Each of your applications can be reviewed and discussed with George and myself to make sure that lithium does make sense for that application. Like I said, if someone wants 4 hours, get a big checkbook because it's just not a good solution at that kind of runtime.
Yep. Okay. Clarification, even though the batteries have a 10-year life, the warranty on the product and the battery is 2 years, correct?
2 full years right now, correct.
Yep. Thank you. That was a question that came in.
All right.
Well, that's it for questions that people have typed. You're welcome to also ask them voice to voice if you'd like.
Well, we have one other little piece that we wanted to talk to. The same picture that you have up right now, which is an SSG, can also be a voltage regulator. And we're having lots of inquiries. So George is just going to do a quick minute on what that product does.
There's some applications.
Somebody just died.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Where backup time is not necessarily an issue, where you actually just require voltage regulation and or frequency conversion. And what that means is that you want a solid state frequency to your output at all times. So in other words, if you're in a European application, you got 230 volts coming in, you got 50 hertz in, but you got American power. So you can always get that 60 hertz out and it's fixed. So therefore, even if the voltage drifts away a little bit, goes up, goes down, it doesn't care what the input's doing. It's always going to produce a 60 hertz output to your equipment. So, and obviously vice versa from 60 to 50, 50 to 60, or just plain and simply just regulate your voltage. If you have erratic voltages that are within the UPS range, what this option does is it allows you to have just a lightweight system for an application that may or may not require any backup time. And it is available. It is the SVRP series of the UPS. It is very similar to the SSG series. It just has the removal of the battery system, and then it can be operated without them.
So if someone has a generator in a facility or a big three-phase UPS. Okay. So anyway, Tim, we just wanted to let people know that that was available, that we're getting a lot of inquiries now about that from people. All that information is on the website, and I'll be sending the new brochure out to Dan next week.
Okay, very good. I've had another question said, you talked a little on recycling, but spent lithium-ion cells have little commercial value due to the purification requirement, making it cheaper to mine virgin materials. This is important. You can't get around it. Your supplier must be part of the solution. So I think they're basically saying you guys are going to need to step up on the recycling side.
Well, that's what George and I were sitting here talking about as we were listening. So, yes.
Okay.
That's something we owe everybody.
All right. Awesome. Thank you.
All right. If there
are there any other questions? Otherwise, I think we're kind of at our time here. Thanks, everybody. Rick, thank you very much again.
Okay.